You're listening to Rebel Spirituality with me, Sam Goldfinch. Here's the truth. Wisdom doesn't follow rules. So each week we're going to explore what it means to wake up your way so you can live a more peaceful, creative and inspired life no matter your circumstances. It's time to blaze your unique path to truth. Hey friend. So I recently had the absolute privilege of hanging out with a group of people who are all fascinated with group work, group transformation. Like, what is it that makes us tick? What is it that leads to a group having profound insights that are life-changing? And we were exploring a few kind of concepts and ideas or ways of relating to things. And I had a really powerful insight on the train on the way home. I suddenly realized, wow, there's something I've known in my heart. There's a way that I've related to life, or a way that I see things that's been really, really helpful. And I did write a Substack piece on this, so I definitely recommend reading that too. But I felt called to explore it with the spoken word as well as the written word. So I'll put the link to the Substack in the show notes. And I'd love for you to kind of listen to both of these, listen and read in concert. Not at the same time, because you'll struggle, because I'm not saying the exact same thing, but you take my point. The thing that I've realized, or the frame, or the way of seeing, or the perspective, or the way of seeing things, I guess, is that we never really know. Like we never really know what's good or what's bad. We never really know what that person, whether they really meant that or intended that. We're in our own internal world. We're in our own reality tunnel. I remember sort of like not really paying good attention and crossing the road with my friend a few years ago, and this car was like steaming around the corner in like a 20 mile an hour or whatever, doing 50. And it was pretty close. Like I managed to like pull back, and the body and the kind of emergency response system did what the system was supposed to do, and it kept me safe. And then my mind started up, what a fucking bastard. I can't believe he did that. How could he? Ba, 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 ba. And then this voice came in and was like, yeah, you never really know, man. You never really know. Like, I certainly don't recommend driving 50 mile an hour in a 20. I think that's relatively irresponsible. But you don't know. That guy might have been racing to the hospital to see a dying relative, or who knows, right? The mind is making up all of these stories, and then I'm feeling the weight of that. And the moment that kind of fell away, I was able to just kind of feel the fight or flight mechanism, feel the kind of heartbeat, feel my system need to go what it needed to, the adrenaline and all of that kind of stuff. But I wasn't carrying a bunch of extra story and judgment and how the fuck and and all that kind of stuff that can come up. I wasn't carrying that anymore. And so my system was able to kind of shift that energy through much more quickly. And so I don't want to suggest that this phrase, like you never really know, is a way of deserting ourselves, or kind of, a very common word at the moment, gaslighting ourselves into thinking, well, everything's absolutely great, when actually we feel like it's freaking terrible. But we don't really know. It seems to me that it's absolutely the case that if any of us reflect on our life, there are things that felt absolutely terrible when they happened. We had that feeling in our stomach, that sinking feeling, or whatever it was. It's like, no, I can't believe this. And we came to see the pure gold that brought to us, perhaps the loss of a job, or the breakdown of a relationship, or the complete shifting and changing of a relationship, or whatever it might have been. And in my experience, we all have, examples of this. And we don't really see it in the middle of it sometimes, although I have to say, more and more these days, if these moments in life happen, there is this just quiet knowing in the background of, you never really know, man. Like, your mind is labeling the shit out of this right now. It's saying it's all good or it's all bad. And it just doesn't look like that. And I've spoken about success and failure and how I see they're two sides of the same coin many times on the podcast. And I remember putting another podcast together about how we're not ever really off track. We think we are, but we're being guided back home. And then, there's sort of leaving our lane, if you like, we kind of get nudged back into it again. So it's a paradox, but life's just unfolding. And then the mind is telling a story over the top, going, oh my God, that's good. Oh my God, that's bad. Oh, this, as if it's creating the whole thing. But the fact of the matter is, life is just moving, right? And then this seeming, these thoughts that convince you that that's who you are. They're like, hey, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm in control. Like, this is terrible. How could this possibly happen? But actually, it's not like that. And so for me, it's been a very helpful it doesn't even, it maybe sounds a bit trite and a bit simple to say it's a way of looking at things. I don't even mean it like that. It's something that I know in my heart. It's something that I know beyond my personal mind. I know it spiritually, I guess. It's true. It looks to me. We don't ever know. And from that wider God's eye view, or from the cosmic view, I just don't understand. Like, given that there's no separation, given that there's just this one thing unfolding, this one radiant appearance, how could all of it not be grace? How could it not be exactly what's needed? And the mind might never be able to understand that. And I'm not for a second, there's really difficult shit that humans go through, and it's hard. And like, I'm not suggesting that we should just go up to people and be like, well, you never really know. Turn that frown upside down, because this might be the best thing that ever happened to you, But I can tell you that we can hear something in our heart that does know this. Ram Dass, one of my favorite recordings from Ram Dass is it's called How to Keep Your Heart Open in Hell. And he kind of talks about this paradox between the relative, where everything seems like it's imperfect and messed up, and there's all this suffering and pain and horror, as well as beauty and love and all this stuff at the human level. And then in the formless dimension, it's just pure perfection. It's just, even the idea of imperfect or perfect is dualistic, right? So in the formless dimension, where there is no form, which of course, there's so many cool things to explore here. Of course, even the distinction between form and formless is ultimately an illusion. It's just the same thing, and it just sort of looks like form or whatever. Like, it's unchanging. It's perfect. It's untouchable. It's untouchable, immovable. It's like the Taoists talk about the fertile void, the nothing from which everything comes. And of course, at the same time, you can't get something from nothing. So the nothing is actually the something, and the something is actually really nothing. We can hear, these are all just words until they're not. They just sound like, cool story, bro, until something like that actually like hits us, and we recognize the truth of it, this knowing that we have inside that's not intellectual. There's no way that we're going to understand. You never really know, like, what at an intellectual level. Like, maybe we can grasp it a little bit, but it's going to make a difference if it's like a gut punch. It lands at an embodied level. We just kind of know that that's true in our heart. That's when it makes a difference. And that's when it changes how we walk through life. And I take no credit for it. I don't know. I've sort of figured that out a while ago. Not that I can't lose touch with that, but knowing that, yeah, wow, that's so true. Like, I see this play out across the board for myself and for so many other people. Yeah, as I say, it changes how we walk through life, and it makes a real difference when times are wonderful and when they're difficult, and when they're both at the same time, which I'm starting to notice is totally possible. That happens a lot. Awesome. So as I say, there's a written piece out there on Substack that if you feel touched by this, if you want to explore it more, I definitely recommend reading that, because it will kind of dovetail with this and perhaps open up other ways of looking at this and other perspectives. But it's very much something that you're going to feel or know or recognize, not emotionally, but kind of at some deeper, for lack of a better kind of term, sense, something before and beyond the mind. Yeah. All right, team. Huge love to you. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'll see you soon.